I just dropped off a takeout order exactly zero point 0.1 seconds past the deadline, and bam, I'm instantly pinned against the wall by the foremost psychotic yanderes of Metro Avalon, bracing for some seriously unhinged punishment. My long-lost sister isn't just treating my sacred boxer shorts like a premium oxygen mask, inhaling them frantically like an absolute maniac. The childhood bro I grew up with has also secretly surgically implanted a micro GPS tracker straight into my body. Meanwhile, the socially awkward top pop idol is busy practicing her death grip on my windpipe while screeching her undying love for me. And even the emotionally stunted snow tribe maiden is frantically tasting my life syrup, whispering, "Oh, brother, you smell absolutely scrumptious." But let's rewind. Right before all this madness, I had just finished my delivery shift and dragged myself home. The second I pushed my front door open, my brain completely blue-screened. The living room lights were blindingly bright. The coffee table was flipped upside down, smashed onto the floor. A vase was shattered into a million jagged pieces. The entire house looked like it had been violently raided by a gang of heavily armed raccoons. We got robbed. I stared at this absolute disaster zone, my brows knitting together in pure dread. "Dad, are you okay?" I frantically shoved open my dad's bedroom door, only to find clothes scattered across the floor like cheap confetti. Every single cabinet drawer had been violently yanked open, and the massive suitcase that usually sat next to his desk was completely gone. Everything pointed to one glaringly obvious, terrifying fact. Dad had packed his bags and bolted, and he did it in an absolute blind panic. What in the world is going on? It's pouring buckets outside. What kind of insane mental gymnastics is my old man pulling right now? Did he accidentally cross someone he shouldn't have? And now some brutal loan sharks have come knocking at our front door? My heart sank like a heavy bowling ball. Suddenly, a deeply suffocating sense of doom washed right over me. The very next second, with a sharp ding, my phone chimed. I took one glance at the screen, and a rapid-fire barrage of text messages exploded into view. "Dad ran into some massive trouble and needs to take a long trip. I won't be coming back for quite a while. When the school semester finally kicks off, just head straight to Metro Avalon by yourself. Remember, when you get to Metro Avalon, absolutely do not mention my name to a single living soul, and whatever you do, do not try to contact me. This is critically important. Whether your old man survives this or not, all depends entirely on you. Don't worry about where I vanished to, and seriously, don't worry about me. When this whole nightmare blows over, we'll see each other again. Son, you need to survive at all costs. Do not go home." Ah, wait a minute. Crap, I'm already standing inside the house. The exact second I hit send on my frantic reply, a glaring red exclamation mark flashed on the chat screen. The old man actually blacklisted me. I threw my head back, my face locked in a mask of sheer, unadulterated disbelief. The front door was still sitting wide open. The hallway outside was pitch black, so eerily silent that it made my scalp tingle. Seeing that everything was going south, my own dad literally sold me out on the spot. Fine, consider this massive grudge officially recorded. Without a single shred of hesitation, I pivoted and marched straight toward the exit. Fleeing for my life was the absolute top priority. But right at that exact, terrifying moment, a chaotic flurry of heavy footsteps echoed up from the stairwell. It definitely didn't sound like just one guy. The stomping was incredibly aggressive and wildly hurried. This was absolutely not the vibe of a friendly neighbor coming up to say hello. I froze, stopping my steps dead in their tracks. Icy sweat mixed with the rainwater from outside, completely soaking me to the bone. It's totally over. The bad guys have actually come knocking at my door. I shot a desperate, frantic glance at the wooden wardrobe in the corner. No good. Playing hide and seek here is a completely suicidal strategy. Gritting my teeth, I forcefully yanked my hood up over my head, zipped my blindingly bright yellow delivery jacket all the way up to my chin, ducked my head down, stepped out of the apartment, and marched straight toward the stairwell. The voice-activated lights in the dingy hallway flickered to life one by one. I kept my head totally down and whipped out my phone, pretending to be a clueless, innocent delivery guy, acting like I was just confirming a late-night order, while the corner of my eye stayed hyper-focused on every tiny movement coming from the stairs. In no time at all, a squad of massive dudes in sharp black suits and dark sunglasses violently barged into my line of sight. My heartbeat instantly spiked straight into my throat, but I forcefully swallowed the panic, maintaining a chillingly calm composure, glaring intently at my glowing phone screen. "Hey, delivery boy, hold up a second," the lead goon in black growled, intercepting my path. Fine beads of cold sweat began to seep from my forehead, but my tone remained steady as ice. What's the problem, man? He whipped out a crumpled photograph. Using the dim, flickering hallway light, he carefully cross-referenced the picture with my face. Nothing much. May I ask which apartment you just delivered that food to? Mrs. Higgins, up on the top floor. I smoothly lied, fabricating a name straight out of thin air. The imposing man in black furrowed his thick brows. And how exactly do you know her last name is Higgins? It was literally printed right on the takeout receipt. I didn't even blink, keeping my poker face totally flawless. Then, have you seen this man? He flipped the glossy photo around and aggressively shoved it right in front of my nose. I threw a casual side-eye at the picture. The young, smirking guy in the photo was undeniably my dad, Silas Vane. 10,000 screaming alpacas wildly stampeded across the plains of my mind. Sorry, man, never seen him. If there's nothing else, I really gotta bounce. My next delivery is about to time out. The man in black just nodded slowly, marching his way up the stairs. Boss. That delivery kid looks suspiciously like the guy in the picture. One of the lackeys leaned in, whispering to the leader. The leader just shook his head. No way. This photo is an ancient relic the matriarch gave us from 10 years ago. That delivery kid is way too young. There is zero chance he's Lord Silas. Still chatting, they aggressively kicked in the door to your apartment, but seeing the front door already wide open, the blood instantly drained from their faces. Crap, we're a step too late. Lord Silas must have already grabbed the young master and made a run for it. They flipped your entire place upside down, practically digging to the center of the earth, but came up completely empty-handed. Just then, a lazy, sultry female voice crackled through their earpieces. So, how did it go? Did you tie him up and drag him over? The matriarch asked. The Lord took the young master and fled, the man in black reported with absolute dread. Sarah, my darling, looks like I won the bet this time. Down at the entrance of your apartment complex, hidden inside a pitch-black, stretched luxury sedan, a stunning older woman in an elegant, black evening gown laughed a mocking, dangerous laugh. Sitting right beside her was a young girl, dressed head to toe in a dark, gothic Lolita outfit. The girl anxiously pressed her face against the glass, wiping away the fog to peer out at the main gate. Through the murky night, she only caught a fleeting glimpse of a yellow silhouette sprinting away, but couldn't make out the face at all. Unacceptable. I need to go to brother's room right now. The young girl violently yanked the car door open and charged straight out into the storm. Young miss, it is pouring rain out here. The chauffeur scrambled out with an umbrella, desperately chasing after her. Oh my little Sarah is even more impatient than I am. The woman sat utterly alone in the back seat. Slowly, she fished a crumpled photograph out from her neckline. It was a picture of Silas Vane, right in the middle of taking a shower. My darling, we clearly agreed that once I inherited the family empire, I would come find you. Now, there is absolutely no one left to oppose us. Why are you so unwilling to see me? She propped her chin on her hand, her morbidly obsessed smile growing incredibly tender. But that is perfectly fine. Does my darling want to play a little game of hide-and-seek with me? All right then. But if I catch you... Her pupils slowly began to bleed into a deep crimson hue. There will be severe punishments. You know. Young miss, why did you come all the way up here? The moment Sarah stepped through the doorway, the men in black stared at her in utter confusion. Where? Is brother's room? If I'm guessing correctly, it should be this one right here. The lead suit pointed at the locked door right next to them. Breach it. Yes, ma'am. One of the suits took 2 steps back and absolutely kicked the door clean off its hinges with a single strike. If there's nothing else, you can all go report back to my mother. Understood. The burly men obediently retreated, leaving only the chauffeur to stand guard at the front door. Now, Sarah was completely alone in your room. The corners of her mouth curved into a massive grin, and she literally dive-bombed straight onto your bed. She fiercely wrapped her arms around your pillow and buried her entire face deep into it, taking a massive, greedy sniff, terrified that your familiar scent might somehow escape the room. Wow, brother actually smells like this now? It's different from before. But Sarah absolutely loves it. I love brother the most in the whole wide world. Her eyes totally glazed over with intoxication, looking like she had just ascended to heaven. But why didn't brother come to see me? Mom clearly texted Dad to say we were coming to get him. She puffed out her cheeks, feeling incredibly annoyed. Did Dad keep it a secret from Brother? Brother must be playing hide and seek with me, right? Oh, I will definitely hunt Brother down. What should we do once I find him? First, I'll go with Brother too. Then do that with Brother. And finally, tie Brother up. And, after a total whirlwind of incredibly unholy thoughts, Sarah, finally, reluctantly crawled out of your bed. She yanked your wardrobe open, scooped out every single piece of your clothing, and hugged the pile tightly against her chest. With her free hand, she snatched your pillow by the corner and marched straight out the door. Young miss, are you here to commit a robbery? The chauffeur stared at her, completely flabbergasted. None of your business. Young miss, do you need my help carrying those? Sarah just shot the chauffeur an absolute death glare. He instantly zipped his lips, silently holding up the umbrella without another word. Meanwhile, outside, the rain was pouring down like an apocalyptic waterfall. You had sprinted like a madman the entire way, finally finding a tiny convenience store far from your neighborhood to duck into. Only after making absolutely sure the men in black hadn't trailed you, did you finally heave a massive sigh of relief. The shop owner saw you completely drenched from head to toe, staring at you like you were a literal ghost. Cautiously, he probed. Young man, are you planning to buy something? You flashed a painfully awkward smile, just trying to duck out of the pouring rain. I'll be out of your hair in a second. Come on, don't be like this. But before you could even finish your sentence, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. You were literally shoved back out into the storm. Losing your footing, you took a spectacular, splashing tumble right into the muddy puddles. Wait, don't. I swear I'll leave in just a minute. You pressed your face against the cold glass door, hitting the shop owner with maximum, desperate puppy dog eyes. Look, kid, you've already scared off all my paying customers. The boss grumbled, tossing a cheap plastic umbrella out at you. Hurry up and go home. The umbrella's on the house. You let out a long, dramatic sigh and snatched the umbrella out of the air. Unlocking your phone, you checked your tragic bank balance, gritted your teeth, scanned his QR code, and aggressively paid the man anyway. Payment successful. Remaining balance, 0. You had an ironclad rule, never take handouts for free. But that one stupid act of pride just turned your already barren wasteland of a wallet into a full-blown, post-apocalyptic desert. Every single cent of your hard-earned, part-time wages had been handed over to your dad. He was supposed to be the family's minister of finance. And the result? The bastard bailed with all the funds, leaving you without a single shiny dime. That $10 was literally your entire net worth. Curse you, old man. I will never forgive you for this. Huddling miserably under a dark overpass, shivering like a cheap phone on vibrate, you unlocked your screen and tapped a very specific contact. Hey, Rent Baroness, you there? Your boy is in seriously dire straits right now. Are you gonna save me, or what? I am officially homeless. Can I rent a room at your place for a bit? I'll pay standard market rate. I might just have to owe you for a little while though. I'll work extra shifts and pay you back. I swear. Wait for me. I'll be right there. This contact, saved as Rent Baroness, wasn't actually your landlord. It was your ultimate childhood best bro, Ara Vance. She had several prime real estate properties under her name. Her parents didn't even live here in Rivertown. She survived purely on that sweet, sweet rent money. Hence the glorious nickname you bestowed upon her. Minutes later, a stunning blonde hopped out of a freshly parked car. Clutching a fluffy pink blanket to her chest, she anxiously scanned the dark surroundings, spotted you curled into a pathetic ball under the bridge, jogged over in a total panic, and immediately draped the heavy blanket over your freezing shoulders. Colin, being one step away from turning into a human popsicle, you wrapped that blanket tight around yourself, finally feeling a fraction of human warmth return to your bones. Looking up to meet her stunningly pretty eyes, you managed a deeply awkward chuckle. Ha! Almost froze to death right there. I seriously owe you my life. If you ever need anything in the future, just say the word. I will climb mountains of blades and swim through seas of fire for you. All right, that is quite enough out of you. She hurriedly cut you off, her eyes practically overflowing with heartache as she stared at your pitiful huddled form. She reached down and grabbed your hand. Let's go. Come home with me. To your place? You were genuinely shocked. You fully expected her to just dump you at one of her empty rental units. You are crashing at my place tonight. We will find you a proper rental tomorrow. She left absolutely zero room for negotiation and literally dragged you into the waiting taxi. So, what exactly happened? She asked, turning her head, her gaze locking firmly onto yours. You opened your mouth to spill the truth, but then realized what a terrible idea that was. If those goons hunting down the old man locked onto me, dragging Era into this mess would be an absolute catastrophe. I absolutely cannot put her in danger, especially since she's just a weak, defenseless girl who couldn't even hurt a fly. You expertly dodged her intense gaze and fabricated an excuse on the fly. We just owed the landlord way too much money. Got violently evicted tonight. Ara narrowed her eyes dangerously. Oh, is that so? I have been asking you for ages if you wanted to move into my place. Why did you always refuse me? I literally wasn't even going to charge you rent, and you still had the absolute audacity to say no. After snapping at you, she whipped her head away, pouting her lips and aggressively pretending to sulk. Even if I die, I will never take advantage of my own best friend. That is my unbreakable moral baseline. You declared this with absolute, solemn conviction, which only made her burst out laughing. She looked you up and down with a mischievous grin. Then, about this life-saving grace of mine, how exactly do you plan to repay me? You pondered for a hot second, then shook your head. No clue, you just name it, as long as it's within my human capabilities. You said it yourself. She shot you a look profoundly loaded with hidden meaning, but you didn't overthink it at all. What kind of evil thoughts could your best bro possibly have? At worst, she'd just make you work like a rented mule. It was exactly like this back when you had to borrow money from her before. You stared out the car window, watching the city's neon lights blur into a wet kaleidoscope of colors through the rain. Rent Baroness. I seriously envy you rich people. You couldn't help but dramatically sigh. You never have to read the room, you never have to worry about looking at people's faces, and you never have to panic about what to eat at the end of the month. How does that old saying go? Your boring daily life is my ultimate, wild dream. A ghostly voice drifted from the seat beside you. A certain someone clearly holds the golden ticket to this exact life, yet completely fails to grasp the opportunity. You snapped your head around, pointing a bewildered finger right at your own nose. Wait, are you talking about me? Stop joking around, unless I hit the mega lottery. I literally cannot fathom a single scenario where my family's fortunes flip. She rolled her eyes so hard they nearly vanished into her head, refusing to speak another word. The taxi drove for what felt like an absolute eternity, finally coming to a dead halt in front of a colossal, sprawling mansion. Rent Baroness, you moved? This definitely wasn't your first time at her place. Growing up, your two families lived just down the street from each other. When you were kids, she was constantly dragging you over to play. Back then, her parents would occasionally pop back into town, and you were super familiar with them too. Both families were so incredibly close, they practically shared a single brain cell. I moved in here right after the college entrance exams. I invited you to come hang out, but you were the one who flat out refused, she said, dripping with total exasperation. You scratched your head, utterly embarrassed. Well, I had to grind at my part-time jobs. I just didn't have the time. She dug a key out of her pocket and tossed it right at you. This is the key to the mansion. Go inside and take a hot shower first. You caught the key, feeling deeply perplexed. Wait, aren't you going home? I am going to buy you some clothes. You can't just shower and put your soggy rags back on, right? But the rain is pouring down so heavily. It is not safe for you to run around outside all by yourself. I can just skip the shower, get lost. That is absolutely disgusting. She glared at you with weapons-grade disgust. She shoved an umbrella into your hands and ruthlessly kicked you out of the car door. Fine, fine. Just put the clothes on my tab. I will pay you back for everything later. You figured a manly guy being a little grubby wasn't a big deal, but dirtying up her ultra-luxurious house would be an absolute crime. Having said your piece, you marched straight toward the mansion. Now, only Ara and the chauffeur were left in the taxi. Young miss, where to next? To the South Lake Apartments. Let's get one thing straight. This was absolutely no ordinary taxi. It was blatantly a private luxury car wearing a cheap taxi skin just for cosplay. The driver was a ruthless professional, hired by the elite Vance family, serving as Ara's exclusive personal chauffeur. Ara Vance was certainly no ordinary rent baroness. She was the legitimate eldest daughter of the Vance family, one of the 4 great empires of Metro Avalon. Back in the day, when her family was caught in a chaotic bloodbath, her parents secretly shipped her off to Rivertown to keep her completely safe from the crossfire. Later, when the deadly family drama was finally resolved, this stubborn eldest miss decided to stay behind in Rivertown. However, you were blissfully ignorant of these dark geopolitical facts. In your purely innocent, broke boy eyes, Ara was just your average, run-of-the-mill, super-rich landlady. Now, let us see exactly what my darling is up to. The corners of Ara's mouth hooked up into a chillingly sweet smile. Please do not disappoint the elaborate stage I have meticulously set for you. Saying this, she pulled out a high-tech smartphone. The screen was actively broadcasting a crystal-clear live surveillance feed from right inside the mansion. At this exact moment, you had just peeled off your dripping wet clothes, wringing them out under the eaves, making absolutely sure you wouldn't drip a single drop before stepping inside. The lights in the massive mansion were blazing, as if someone had left in a major hurry. You slowly looked up at the ginormous, ridiculously expensive chandelier sparkling right above your head. Then, you threw a quick glance at the ultra-premium beanbag sofas sitting in the lavish living room. The interior design was way more ostentatious than her previous place. It absolutely blew your poor mind to pieces. You knew the rent baroness was loaded, but you just didn't realize she was this obscenely wealthy. I wonder how my old man is doing right now. You gazed out the massive window. The rain hadn't let up at all. In fact, it was crashing down even harder than before. Dad, your son doesn't expect you to buy him a mega mansion, but could you at least not abscond with my barely there living expenses? You let out a truly soul-crushing sigh. After doing a full lap around the first floor and utterly failing to locate a shower room, you marched right up the stairs to the second floor. A ridiculously long, dimly lit hallway greeted your unsuspecting eyes. The walls were plastered with an absolutely absurd amount of framed artwork. You stared at these paintings in pure, unadulterated shock. Not because you were amazed by how masterful they were, but because every single one of these crimes against canvas was drawn by you. Back in elementary school, you really loved to draw. Unfortunately, your artistic skills were a literal crime against humanity. Conveniently, Ara was actually a deeply talented artist, so she became your designated, long-suffering art tutor. After you finished your so-called masterpieces, she would kindly volunteer to store them for you. You never in a million years imagined that she had actually framed and hung every single one of them in a creepy, personalized gallery hallway. My darling. Ara's voice practically whispered through the screen. Now you must finally understand the true, terrifying depths of my devotion, right? Alara stared at the glowing screen, completely captivated by your every move in the mansion. She eagerly anticipated your emotional reaction, and just as expected, your eyes got a little red and misty. Man, I never knew the rent baroness was this sentimental, you muttered. You were profoundly moved. She is truly worthy of being my ultimate best bro. When those clueless words reached Alara's ears, her face instantly darkened like a violent thunderstorm. Meanwhile, you were totally oblivious. How weird. Why does such a massive mansion not have a single bathroom on the first floor? You walked all the way to the dead end of the hallway and did not spot a single one. Ding! Your phone loudly chimed. It was a text message from Alara. Forgot to mention, the mansion doesn't have a standalone guest bathroom. There is only one, and it is right inside my master bedroom. My room is on the second floor. It is the only one with the lights on. You hurriedly texted her back to ask a question, feeling incredibly awkward. Isn't this highly inappropriate? You asked. She never replied. You looked up at her bedroom door, hesitated for a solid minute, and then finally pushed the heavy door open and walked right in. The room had bright pink walls and a massive white bed, with a gigantic stuffed teddy bear sitting directly in the center. Judging by the looks of it, the bear was serving active duty as her personal body pillow. You were stunned she actually still kept this thing? You instantly recognized it as the birthday present you gave her when you two were little kids. But how on earth did it get this hilariously mangled? The poor teddy bear had dozens of tiny holes violently punctured all over its fluffy body, but every single hole had been meticulously stitched back together. That is absolutely correct, my darling, Alara whispered to herself, her mouth curving into a terrifying, sinister smirk. I have preserved it safely all this time. She would intentionally stab the bear with sharp objects, only to lovingly stitch the wounds back up, placing it back on her bed, as if this psychotic, ritualistic abuse somehow proved the twisted validity of her feelings for you. Seriously now, how old is she? Still sleeping with a giant teddy bear? You could not stop yourself from brutally roasting her out loud. Alara stared at her phone screen, her face going completely deadpan. Is that seriously his only takeaway here? Right next to the bed was her sleek workstation and computer desk. Sitting right on top was a wide-open diary. Since when did the rent baroness start journaling? You vividly remembered that she never had this habit before. Little did you know, this diary was an elaborate, obsessive trap that Alara had carefully set up just for you. My darling, once you read that diary, you will definitively understand. But before she could even finish her internal villainous monologue, you completely derailed her plan. Honestly, writing all this personal stuff, and not even putting it away, it is a good thing I am the one who walked in here. What if a total stranger walked in and saw all this deeply embarrassing stuff? You obligingly snapped her diary firmly shut for her, thoughtfully clipping her fountain pen between the pages as a makeshift bookmark. It is fine. Just remain calm, Alara told herself. Alara forcefully suppressed the violent, burning urge to hijack the car and speed straight back home. I still have my ultimate trump card. Ring, ring, ring. You nearly jumped completely out of your skin from the sudden, blaring alarm clock. You violently whipped your head toward the massive wardrobe in the corner of the room. Why on earth did she stuff an alarm clock inside her closet? You frowned in pure, unfiltered confusion. Watching through the camera, Alara smirked devilishly. This was a brilliant booby trap she had carefully set up well in advance. The exact moment Kalen opens that closet door, he will immediately discover that it is wallpapered entirely with creepy stalker photos of the two of us. But instead, you just stood there. This feels highly inappropriate. It is a girl's private wardrobe, after all. You pulled back the hand that was just about to rip the door open, deciding it was best to just let her take the clock out herself later. What an absolute block of wood. An incredibly dense, dead piece of lumber. Inside the taxi, Alara's eyes began to glow with a terrifying, blood-red light. Her beautiful smile violently contorted from sheer, unadulterated fury. Have you completely failed to perceive even a tiny fraction of my intense feelings? But that is perfectly fine. When I get back, I will forcefully educate you until you finally understand. But right now, it is time to collect a little bit of interest. Her delicate finger swiped aggressively across the glowing screen. The hidden surveillance feed swapped instantly to the bathroom camera. Her expression gradually warped into something deeply unhinged and obsessive. Hee, oh Kalen. A short while later, the sleek black car pulled up right beneath your apartment building. Young miss, we have safely arrived, the chauffeur helpfully pointed out. Why did it have to be at this exact, perfect moment? She reluctantly put down her phone, glaring at the driver. So, young miss, what exactly are you planning to do? He asked. It is absolutely nothing. You just wait right here. Alara stepped out of the car, popped open the heavy trunk, and aggressively dragged out a massive, heavy white burlap sack. Wait, weren't we supposed to be buying some new clothes for Mr. Kalen? The chauffeur asked, completely bewildered by the giant sack. Alara completely ignored his question, heaving the massive sack effortlessly over her shoulder. She marched straight into the apartment building, pushing through the torrential, pouring rain. Her dark hair was completely plastered to her cold face, but she could not care less about the raging storm. Where would be the absolute optimal placement for all of these? She violently ripped the wet sack open. Under the dim, flickering hallway lights, it was visibly filled to the very brim with thousands of micro-surveillance cameras. Lost in her obsessive fantasy, she seemingly completely forgot to manage her terrifying facial expressions. A tiny drop of crazed drool accidentally slipped from the corner of her mouth. Allow me to give your brand new home a very thorough, incredibly loving renovation. Meanwhile, completely oblivious inside the bathroom, you were happily humming a catchy little tune, letting the boiling hot water wash away all the heavy exhaustion from your battered, underdog body. Your mind raced with one burning question: where the heck was the rent baroness? Right as you reached for your phone to text her, a heavy thud echoed from the front door downstairs, followed by a frantic, chaotic stampede of footsteps. Seconds later, a sharp knock rattled the bathroom door. Kane, are you done washing up? I brought your fresh clothes. Thanks a million, you yelled back. How much was it? Put it on my tab. I'll pay you back next time. Oh, her voice muffled through the wood. Also, that alarm clock in your closet just kept ringing and ringing. You should probably go turn it off. In a flash, the sound of the alarm was brutally murdered. Era's voice drifted through the door once more. I'll just add the clothing bill to your overall rent later. Sounds like a plan. No problem at all. You didn't overthink it, agreeing without missing a single beat. Then I'll just come in and hand the clothes to you, she offered. Hurry and open the door. Just pass them through the crack. You wrapped a towel tightly around your waist and cracked the door open just a tiny sliver. Stinky Kane, being so stingy, she grumbled with profound annoyance, aggressively shoving the shopping bag through the narrow gap. You opened the bag. A highly familiar, premium fragrance immediately assaulted your nostrils. You furrowed your brows. What kind of boutique makes their clothes smell this intense? Did they literally marinate them in perfume? And why did this scent feel so incredibly familiar? You didn't dwell on it too much. You grabbed the undergarments and started pulling them on. Feels a bit tight. Rent Baroness, did you buy these a size too small? Ah. I don't know your exact measurements. It's not like I've ever bought you clothes before. Her voice suddenly sounded incredibly defensive, like you deeply wronged her. All right, tight is fine. I can live with it. You rummaged around in the bag a bit more, stopping dead as you stared at the pink, cartoon-patterned boxer shorts in your hand. You fell into a deep, philosophical silence. Rent Baroness, I never expected you to actually buy me something this chaotic. Just put them on already. If you talk any more trash, I'm ignoring you, she interrupted, sounding fiercely embarrassed. Even though the boxers were also uncomfortably snug, you managed to squeeze into them. Looking at the bulging bag of fresh clothes, your heart felt a sudden surge of warmth. Who knew she could be this thoughtful? I'll gladly accept this wardrobe upgrade. Thanks, bro. Outside the door, the corners of Era's mouth hooked into a deeply unsettling, terrifying smirk. Looks like I'll have to go buy my own clothes now. When you stepped out of the bathroom, you found her sitting upright at the head of her bed, staring absolutely dead straight at you. What's wrong? You couldn't help but ask. Nothing. She hurriedly retracted her laser-focused gaze. It's my turn to shower. She marched assertively toward the bathroom and slammed the door shut. Ara was muttering furiously in her own mind. Stupid Kane. Are you literally forcing me to take things to this extreme? But that's perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a girl taking the initiative, right? She stared at herself in the mirror and licked her lips ravenously, admiring her flawless facial features and absolutely perfect figure. I'm going to force you to acknowledge that I am a woman, not your good bro. No peeking, okay? She called out, followed immediately by the sound of splashing water. You rolled your eyes so hard at the bathroom door, they almost got stuck in the back of your head. Then, you started scrolling on your phone, hunting for any viable part-time job postings. A few minutes later, Era's voice echoed from the bathroom. Oh no, I forgot to grab my bath towel. Kane, be a dear and fetch it for me. You froze for a second. There aren't any towels in the bathroom. I live alone. Why would I stockpile towels in there? Her tone was completely breezy. There's one hanging out on the balcony. Go grab it and bring it to me. Fine. You got up, retrieved the towel from the balcony, and walked right up to the bathroom door. Her voice drifted out again. Come on in. You severely doubted your own hearing. What did you just say? She repeated herself. Come on in. You instantly petrified right where you stood, your brain short-circuiting into total chaos. Is the Rent Baroness really this wild and uninhibited? Or is this just how crazy rich people operate? Your body felt like it had been injected with solid lead, utterly unable to move a single muscle. Your heart was doing absolute backflips. What are you standing around for? Hurry up and come in. Her tone remained as flat as a pancake, as if she were just discussing the weather. You let out a heavy sigh. Even though we are technically bros, there's still a line bros shouldn't cross when it comes to being completely transparent with each other. You tried to sound as righteous and principled as humanly possible. Why not? Era teased with a mischievous laugh. Because you are literally a girl. Oh, so you do realize I'm a girl? She mumbled in a sugary sweet voice, followed immediately by a terrifyingly eerie giggle. Click. The doorknob made a sharp, rotating sound. The bathroom door swung wide open. You immediately squeezed your eyes shut and whipped around to face the wall. Wait. What? Rent Baroness? What the hell are you trying to pull here? She glided over without a single sound, materializing right behind you, and leaned in close to whisper directly into your ear. What's wrong, Kaylin? Her breath carried a deeply intoxicating, hypnotic fragrance. The blast of heat from the radiator made her voice feel practically electrified, instantly sending a paralyzing jolt of numbness straight through your entire body. Brothers playing these kinds of jokes on each other is crossing the line a bit, don't you think? You desperately tried to scramble back and create some physical distance. What's the problem? Aren't best bros supposed to be totally bare and honest with each other? Alia's voice was impossibly soft and melting, acting like a completely different human being from the girl you usually knew. The bare and honest you're talking about is definitely not the same definition I'm using. You took a massive step forward, attempting a tactical retreat, but she snatched your wrist with an iron grip, spinning like a pirouetting fairy. She pivoted and planted herself directly in front of you, completely sealing off your escape route under the warm, dim glow of the bathroom lights. She rose up on her tiptoes, pressing her forehead flush against yours. Kaylin, even now, do you still completely fail to understand? Her voice was fragile and weak, carrying a heavy, heartbreaking trace of grievance. You've made me wait for so long. You really have such a cruel heart, don't you? You stood frozen like a wooden statue, absolutely paralyzed by her intensity. Alia bit her lip, her eyes flickering with a dangerous obsessive light. Actually, hold that thought. Keeping your eyes glued shut, you violently chucked the bath towel onto the bed, engaged your turbo thrusters, and just bolted. With a deafening crash, you tripped spectacularly over a chair and ate absolute dirt. Ignoring the searing pain, you scrambled to your feet and charged madly into the hallway, followed by the echoing slam of the bedroom door. Alia stood absolutely petrified in the middle of the room, her hollow gaze deadlocked on the exact direction you just fled, her complexion instantly plunging into darkness as the corners of her mouth twitched into a frigid, psychotic sneer. Kaylin, is this your final answer? A single tear slid down her cheek as a terrifying crimson light erupted from her pupils. Her breathing became incredibly erratic and heavy. Kaylin, she muttered feverishly to herself. She violently spun around and ripped the wardrobe doors wide open, frantically tearing down a dense, obsessive collage of photographs plastered inside. Her hands were trembling uncontrollably, clutching the stolen photos like a drowning sailor desperately clinging to a life preserver. The pictures meticulously documented every single moment from the day you met, all the way up to your high school graduation. Only then did her chaotic, spiraling mood find a tiny fraction of twisted solace. She gasped heavily for air, a flush of feverish crimson spreading across her face. Kaylin, why won't you just understand? Why do you keep running away from my feelings? We've been through so much together. Why did you reject me? Her manic gaze suddenly locked onto the stuffed teddy bear sitting innocently on the bed. She walked over slowly, grabbed it by the throat, dragged it to her workstation, and snatched up a razor-sharp box cutter in mere seconds. The white cotton stuffing inside the bear violently exploded outward. I hate you! She stabbed it again and again, the poor teddy bear rapidly devolving into an unrecognizable horror show. Kaylin, why? Her crimson eyes stared unblinkingly at the decimated bear in her hands, violently shaking it with pure, psychotic rage. Speak to me, Kaylin. Wait, I know why. You just don't like me enough yet, so you can't accept my feelings right now. Actually, you understand everything perfectly. You're just playing dumb. You've been deceiving me for all these years. Am I right? Kaylin? The shredded teddy bear obviously didn't move, which she gladly took as tacit confirmation of her insane interrogation. I knew it all along. But that's perfectly fine, my darling. I will slowly and methodically cultivate our relationship until I am the absolute only thing left in your entire world, and the only thing allowed to exist in it. Her eyes completely glazed over, sinking entirely into the darkest depths of her own psychotic delusions. She hugged the mangled teddy bear fiercely against her chest, crushing it until it practically disintegrated in her grip, cotton vomiting everywhere, across the floor. Kaylin, she collapsed onto the ground in absolute agony, using her trembling hands to frantically gather the loose cotton, clumsily attempting to shove it back into the bear's ruined corpse. But the more she panicked, the more she violently ripped the fragile fabric. Finally, the teddy bear regurgitated the very last scrap of cotton, devolving into nothing more than a scarred, empty rag. I made a huge mistake, Kaylin. I shouldn't have let you run away so easily. Haha. Kaylin, I am going to completely strip you of your fundamental right to refuse me. Forever. You will stay by my side for all eternity, my darling. You completely forced my hand here. Saying this, she pulled out her phone without a single ounce of hesitation and booted up a hidden GPS tracking app, fully intending to order her ruthless bodyguards to hunt you down like prey and drag you screaming back to her. But staring dead at the tracker, her eyes suddenly widened to the size of saucers. Why? That crimson dot on the map? It was moving at breakneck speed. But wait, it was heading straight back to the mansion. Downstairs, the front door clicked open, followed by a booming voice echoing through the halls. Rent Baroness, I'm back. Ara froze completely solid right where she was kneeling. She absolutely did not anticipate you pulling a massive U-turn and rushing right back. Why? She muttered the word over and over like a broken record, her brain completely short-circuiting on what to do next. Realizing you were about to charge up those stairs at any second, she violently snapped back to reality. Kane, stop right there. Do not come in. Her voice was laced with genuine panic. Rent Baroness, what's wrong with you? You asked, your face a mask of pure confusion. I am changing my clothes. You are absolutely forbidden from coming in. She frantically scrambled to clean up the absolute massacre of cotton scattered across the floor. Wait, weren't you literally just demanding that I come straight into the bathroom? You scratched your head in total bewilderment. Pervert! I was wearing a bath towel back then. She yelled back, desperately sweeping the floor. Didn't you literally just tell me to bring you a bath towel? You became even more profoundly confused. I require 2 separate towels to dry my body. Is that illegal? Her tone was undeniably laced with sheer panic. Phew, you scared me to death, Rent Baroness, you muttered. Your boy almost had a heart attack just now. All right, then. Hurry it up. You let out a massive sigh of relief. Ara chaotically shoved all the crime scene evidence off the floor, cramming the loose cotton and the shredded corpse of her teddy bear deep into the closet. Then she leaped onto the bed with ninja-like speed and buried her head underneath her pillow. She was absolutely terrified that you might catch a glimpse of her tears. All right. You can come in now. You pushed the door open, holding a crinkly plastic pharmacy bag in your hand, and sat down right on the edge of the bed. Kane, what did you come back for? Her head remained stubbornly buried under the pillow as she muttered defensively. Why am I not allowed to come back? Your face was a giant question mark. What did you come back for? To pity me? She asked, staying face down. She bit her lip hard, refusing to make eye contact. Hearing this, you became even more spectacularly confused. You ran the instant replay in your head. Wait, you weren't wearing any clothes. You walked right up to me and literally pressed your forehead against mine. And then what did I say? Do you even remember? Her voice trembled with anger, her cheeks burning a bright red. Ah, I have absolutely zero memory of that, you replied. Weren't you running a massive fever? So, I sprinted out to buy you some medicine. You waved the little pharmacy bag in the air. It was getting pretty late. If I waited any longer, all the pharmacies would have locked up for the night. This revelation completely blue-screened Ara's brain. The room descended into absolute pin-drop silence. A moment later, she rolled over, her massive eyes overflowing with pure shock. Completely ignoring the fact that she looked like a crying mess, she stared at you with tear-filled puppy dog eyes. I had a fever? Oh geez, why are you crying? Does it hurt that badly? You instantly panicked, having absolutely no idea what to do, looking at her with a face full of genuine distress. Ara didn't react at all. You started hyperventilating just a little bit. Staying silent clearly wasn't working either. You quickly scooted closer to the bed, tossing the medicine aside. Is it really that uncomfortable? When you pressed your forehead against mine earlier, I felt that your skin was literally radiating heat. That's when I realized you were burning up. So, I immediately ran out to buy meds. Did you catch a chill when you went out in the rain to buy me those clothes? You frantically tried to explain your earlier actions, completely assuming she was bawling her eyes out just because the fever was making her miserable. I know your immune system is total trash. The second you get rained on, you catch a cold. And the second you catch a cold, you run a massive fever. If you don't take your meds, you'll never recover. You babbled incoherently, desperately trying to justify everything. But Ara still didn't move an inch. Her beautiful eyes just stared unblinkingly into yours, tears streaming down her face like a broken faucet. You panicked even harder. Wait, did I say something wrong again? You had absolutely no idea how to fix this, so you just defaulted to a brute force apology. Ah man, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have made you wait this long. The main issue was, I literally only had $10 left to my name. I couldn't afford a cab, so I had to jog all the way to the pharmacy to get these pills. Most of the shops around here were already shuttered. I had to sprint to like 4 different places before I finally found one open. You gently placed your hand on her forehead, then touched your own to gauge the difference. It's even hotter than before. Hurry up and lay down flat. I'll go mix the medicine for you. But just as you turned around to grab the water kettle, your shirt hem was seized in an absolute death grip. Is she planning to never let me go? You felt like the sky was actively collapsing right on top of you. You turned your head back, honestly a little terrified. You were absolutely terrified that the rent baroness was legitimately furious with you, while simultaneously drowning in a massive wave of guilt thanks to the pouring rain. You never should have let a girl run out in a storm just to buy you clothes. But mostly, it was profound shame. You made her cry. You had completely failed your duties as a premium bro. Are you mad at me? You probed incredibly cautiously. But no, she wasn't, perhaps because her brain was literally cooking from the fever. A faint, rosy flush spread across her face. This entire scenario felt insanely familiar. You two had grown up side by side. Ara's parents were constantly away on business, usually right when she got sick. The live-in nanny was responsible for keeping her alive, but every single time she called in sick to school, you would always march right over to her house to check on her. Sometimes it was to deliver homework and tutor her, and other times, it was just to help the nanny keep her entertained. As she grew older, her immune system actually seemed to level up significantly. She almost never got sick anymore, especially once you both hit high school. You were drowning in academics and hadn't visited her house in a very long time, let alone taken care of her like this. Then I'll go mix your meds, you said, attempting to stand up. Absolutely forbidden, Kaylin. A monstrous force yanked backward on your shirt, causing you to lose your center of gravity and crash violently onto the mattress. Then, a ridiculously soft body wrapped right around you from behind. Kaylin, I'm so scared. Her voice was pure mush, laced with a weak, pitiful sobbing tone. What's wrong? You figured her brain had officially boiled over from the high temperature. It's fine. It's fine. Once you take the meds, you'll bounce right back. Just tough it out for a sec, okay? You gently tried to peel Ara off your back, but she was currently functioning like industrial-grade superglue, completely refusing to let go. All right. You aren't a little kid anymore. If you're sick, just rest properly. Your ultra-gentle tone seemed to trigger a specific nerve in Ara's brain. She tightened her python-like grip around your waist even harder. A little lighter, Rent Baroness. Since when did you acquire the strength of a silverback gorilla? You grimaced, baring your teeth in absolute pain. Kaylin, you're taking such good care of me. How am I ever going to repay you? Ara nuzzled aggressively into your back. Just refund me the $10 I spent on the meds and we're square, you replied instantly. No way. Ara genuinely seemed completely delirious from the fever now. Her voice was incredibly weak and airy. Hearing this, your face became a giant canvas of question marks. You couldn't help but roast her internally. Why is the Rent Baroness suddenly being such a massive cheapskate? However, you turned your head and looked at Ara, who had her eyes closed, glued to your back like a koala, and chuckled teasingly. Then, what grand prize were you planning to gift me? Hearing this inquiry, she whimpered a few unintelligible syllables. You completely failed to decipher them, so you leaned your body down and put your ear right next to her lips. I want to put you inside my. Your brain hard crashed before your CPU could even attempt a reboot. Your head was immediately and forcefully slammed face first into the mattress. Rent Baroness, what the heck are you doing? If you want to throw down, at least wait until you recover, Callan. Ara peered at you through half-lidded eyes, her peach-pink pupils literally morphing into the shape of little hearts. Want to try and find out with me? With her currently operating at 102 degrees at this exact moment, you were staring at her with maximum bewilderment. This girl's brain is completely deep-fried. She's just spewing absolute gibberish. Watching her groggy, delirious state, with that perfectly sculpted little face glowing bright red, you couldn't resist reaching out and gently pinching her cheek. My bro is actually kind of adorable sometimes. Be a good girl, Kaylin. Ara's voice faded into a whisper, and very quickly, her breathing leveled out. By the looks of it, she had officially passed out, but her hands were still committing absolute crimes. 1 second, she was petting you like a stray cat. The next second, she was rubbing your head like a toddler. You couldn't help but snort out a laugh. So basically, in her subconscious, you were either a house pet or an annoying little kid. Who knew the Rent Baroness was a sleep talker? A diabolical light bulb suddenly clicked on in your head. If I snap a pic of her acting like this and record the audio, once she wakes up sober, she'll be begging on her knees for me to delete it. By then, she'll have to do whatever I command. Maybe I'll start by making her refund my medicine money. Action immediately followed the thought. You whipped out your phone, pointed it right at her face, and unleashed a rapid-fire paparazzi blitz. Then, you booted up the voice recorder app and shoved the mic right next to her mouth. Absolute perfection. You smirked like a supervillain and prepared to extract yourself, only to discover that even though she was dead asleep, her entire body was quite literally locked onto yours. Her arms were clamped around your neck, her chin was resting heavily on your shoulder, and her scorching hot breath kept intermittently blasting you right in the face. You have got to be kidding me. How on earth am I supposed to sleep like this? But considering you are my sworn bro, I will endure this. The next morning, a bright ray of sunlight pierced through the floor-to-ceiling windows, landing right on your face. She cracked her eyes open just a sliver, only to see you lying directly next to her. You were currently sporting a pair of massive, panda-level dark circles. You stared at her with the unblinking intensity of a vengeful ghost, radiating pure, unfiltered resentment because your arm had been crushed under her weight for so long that it had achieved total numbness. You could not feel it at all, but you did not dare move a single muscle for fear of waking her up. What was infinitely worse, you currently felt exactly like a deflated balloon. Your entire life force seemed to have been violently extracted from your body. Era looked completely dazed and groggy. She squinted at you for a solid minute, then shuffled her face closer, whispered a soft good morning, closed her eyes again, and rubbed herself even closer against your body, fully intending to go right back to sleep. Rent Baroness, please observe what time it currently is. Your voice was as raspy as sandpaper. Since waking up this morning, your throat felt like it had swallowed shattered glass. There was an 80% chance she successfully infected you with her virus. Add in the fact that you had to lie perfectly still all night, acting as her designated human body pillow, and you did not sleep a single wink. Ara acted completely deaf, continuing to chokehold your neck and lying peacefully in your embrace. You sighed heavily in your heart. She got sick like this, so you were at least partially responsible. Thinking of this, your absolute fury dialed back a few notches. You were probably just being used as a substitute for that mangled teddy bear. You let out a massive yawn and scanned the room with your eyes. Weird. Where did that giant teddy bear go? It was literally right here earlier. It was not until noon that she finally opened her eyes for real. Her energy levels were visibly restored, and her brain was operating at normal capacity again. Rent Baroness, did you enjoy your nap? You ground the words out, syllable by agonizing syllable. It was exceptionally comfortable. What about you, Kaylin? Did you sleep well? She sat up and executed a massive stretch, the sunlight filtering through her sheer pajamas, perfectly outlining her incredibly well-proportioned figure. Let us go check out those rental apartments, then. You were just about to sit up when she violently shoved you back down onto the mattress. Rent Baroness, what are you doing? You are sick. She accurately diagnosed your current miserable state. A bizarre, unnatural light flashed through her eyes. You definitely caught my fever. Today, you are to remain strictly in bed and rest. You smiled bitterly and shook your head. This minor bug is nothing. I have worked full 12-hour shifts when my fever was so bad my legs were absolute jelly. Time is money. Let us go look at apartments right now. Absolutely not. Her tone was undeniably dictatorial. You will lie down right here and be a good boy. Once you are fully recovered, I will personally take you house hunting. Come to think of it, her voice began to trail off into a husky whisper. I have never actually had the chance to nurse you while you were sick. After an entire night of zero sleep, combined with the raging fever, you genuinely felt like you were on the verge of death. So, you ultimately surrendered. Fine, then I will leave my life in your hands. Saying that, you slowly closed your eyes, your consciousness rapidly fading out, your breathing leveling off into a steady rhythm. Standing by the bed, the corners of Era's mouth twitched into an incredibly wicked smirk. Kaylin, just let me take incredibly thorough care of you. She reached out and caressed your burning cheek, feeling the scorching heat radiating from your skin, drawn to you as if magnetized by an invisible force. She pressed her entire face flush against yours, rubbing aggressively against your cheek, her facial expression twisting into something deeply unhinged, sinking entirely into her own psychotic euphoria. A long while later, she finally forced herself to stand up, endlessly petting your hair, coaxing you in a sweet whisper, exactly like calming a toddler. Kaylin, you are being such a good boy. What kind of special reward should I give you? As if struck by sudden inspiration, her eyes lit up like floodlights. You must be absolutely starving by now. Allow me to feed you something delicious. She quickly scurried to the kitchen and returned with a slice of bread, gently bit off a tiny corner, chewed it methodically a few times, and kept the mushy bread resting right on her tongue. Ara stared with absolute laser focus at your lips, which were trembling slightly from your shallow breathing. A wave of inexplicable, terrifying excitement surged through her veins. She leaned in, utterly entranced, preparing to deliver a mouth-to-mouth, imported bread payload. But right at this critical juncture, her phone abruptly started ringing like a massive air raid siren. She was violently startled by the sudden noise, and the chewed-up bread on her tongue plummeted directly onto the floor. She froze for a few seconds, her face instantly twisting into a dark, murderous scowl as she viciously cursed in her head. What blind idiot is calling me right now, ruining my masterpiece at the exact perfect moment? Completely ignoring the blaring phone, she took another bite of her bread, gearing up for attempt number 2. But the ear-piercing ringtone made you groan and roll over, turning your back to Aura, which completely annihilated Aura's feeding protocol. She reached out, wanting to forcefully flip you back over, but she was terrified of waking you up. After agonizing over it for half a minute, she finally gave up, her mouth twitching violently a few times. Then, wearing an expression of absolute murder, she stormed out of the room, yanking out her phone with an aura of pure resentment. "Hello." Her voice was utterly devoid of life. "Aura, sweetie, are you at home?" The gentle voice of Mother Vance echoed from the other end. She grunted another lifeless response. "What's wrong, Aura? Are you feeling sick, or did you run into some kind of trouble?" "Nope." The other end of the line fell quiet for a second. Then Father Vance's booming voice suddenly erupted. "Don't tell me that punk Kalen is bullying you. He absolutely is not." She puffed out her cheeks and muttered softly, "Kalen treats me better than anyone." Even though she mumbled it, Mother and Father Vance heard it with crystal clarity. Mother Vance couldn't help but chuckle out loud. "Are you hanging out with Kalen right now, by any chance?" Aura didn't expect her mind to be read so easily. Her face instantly detonated into the color of a ripe tomato. He's actually in my bedroom right now." "Oh. So that's how it is." Mother Vance's laugh became incredibly loaded with implication. "It appears we've interrupted your private time." "What?" Father Vance instantly ignited like a powder keg, violently slamming his hand onto the table. "That little punk. He has zero respect for boundaries. Actually daring to sneak into your house. Just wait till I get my hands on him. I'll take a pair of garden shears and snip his dad." "What on earth are you imagining?" Aura snorted in extreme embarrassment and fury, hurriedly launching into a detailed explanation of the situation. Hearing the story, both parents were momentarily stunned. "No wonder we haven't been able to contact Silas for the past few days. Their family is honestly ridiculous, running into massive trouble, and not even asking us for backup. How about this? For the time being, why don't you bring Kalen to live at our main estate? He got accepted into Metro Avalon University too, right? This way, you two can keep each other company, and Kalen won't have to stress out about his living expenses. Can we really do that?" A jolt of unfiltered joy leaped into Aura's voice. "Look at her." Mother Vance smiled, shooting a side eye at Father Vance, whose face was currently covered in gloomy black lines. Just a second ago, she sounded half dead. The moment I mentioned Kalen moving in, she instantly revs up to maximum RPM, but Kalen will absolutely never agree to that. Aura sighed heavily. "His pride is thicker than a brick wall. There is zero chance he would accept free housing from us. Moreover, if he found out my actual identity, he probably wouldn't interact with me like this ever again." Aura knew this, with absolute certainty. If you discovered she was actually a high society heiress, a massive, unreachable barrier would instantly materialize between the two of you. Sigh. "You two are seriously a massive headache. And Kalen, really, he's a great kid in every aspect. Except he is emotionally as dense as a solid block of concrete." Mother Vance shook her head helplessly. "Your identity is going to get exposed eventually. You know you can't possibly keep cosplaying as a poor landlord in front of him forever. At least for right now, I have to." Aura gritted her teeth. Sometimes, she violently desired to crack your skull open, just to verify if it was actually filled entirely with sawdust. She had resolved to maintain the deception until the two of you officially locked down a romantic relationship. Only then would she drop the truth bomb. "How about this plan, then? I will purchase a villa near Metro Avalon University. You can just tell him you want to split the rent as roommates and charge him a completely symbolic, microscopic fee. He shouldn't suspect a thing, and your cover identity remains absolutely secure. How does that sound?" Aura's eyes lit up like supernovas, the corners of her mouth curling skyward. "Perfect. Let's execute that plan. I veto this entirely." Father Vance was so panicked he was aggressively slapping the table. "Living together alone under one roof? Who knows what kind of degenerate things that boy might attempt? Mother Vance rolled her eyes into orbit. Aren't we also living in Metro Avalon? Worst case scenario, we just crash their place for dinner every single night, just to put your paranoid fatherly heart at ease. She paused for a dramatic second, smiling with profound mischief. Besides, you know exactly what kind of kid Kalen is. He's honest to a fault. If something actually did happen between them, we'll just kidnap him and force him to be our son-in-law. He wouldn't be able to escape even if he tried. What on earth are you two talking about? Alara puffed out her cheeks, aggressively faking outrage. What kind of parents deliberately set traps for their own daughter? But the corners of her mouth were betraying her, rising uncontrollably. Ara, sweetie, why don't you just pack up and move back to Metro Avalon tomorrow? Head over early so Kalen doesn't have to suffer out there on his own. Mother Vance delivered her final, incredibly loaded sign-off. I won't interrupt you two any longer. Have fun playing. She hung up the phone. The more Alara thought about it, the more hyper-excited she became. Her brain was already rendering 4K simulations of the two of you eating every meal together and commuting to classes side by side. She completely failed to notice that her facial expressions had lost all tether to reality. By the time she snapped out of it, she frantically wiped the drool off her chin, feeling a tiny twinge of regret in her heart. What a shame. Now I can't use all those cameras I installed in the apartment. Where am I? You snapped your eyes open, finding yourself trapped inside a dilapidated, pitch-black room. It was dark as a tomb. Your arms and legs were viciously lashed to a rickety, dangerously unstable wooden chair. The harder you thrashed, the tighter the ropes constricted, as if they were cursed by black magic. A singular beam of sunlight penetrated through a spinning exhaust fan, striking you right across the face. The shadows of the fan blades sliced gently across your features, like a hand reaching out from the abyss to gently stroke you. That lone beam of light also illuminated another silhouette right beside you. Dad, you screamed in shock. Why are you here? But Silas acted completely deaf, staring blankly into the void, sitting there like a completely inanimate statue. Dad, you violently rocked your body weight, dragging the chair inch by agonizing inch toward him. 5 meters, 3 meters, 1 meter. Right as you were about to make physical contact, a massive shadow suddenly swallowed your entire body, completely blocking out the only source of light. An indescribable, suffocating pressure crushed down on your entire being, like a multi-ton boulder had been dropped onto your chest. Losing your balance, you crashed violently onto the floor. Save me, Dad. The crushing pressure didn't recede. Instead, it intensified exponentially. The ropes binding you constricted further as the shadow deepened. Within seconds, all ambient light was devoured. Your world plunged into absolute darkness. What was worse, your nose and mouth felt like they were plugged with cement. Breathing became mathematically impossible. Your primal survival instincts forced you to thrash like a maniac, but your limbs were locked tight. You could only whip your head back and forth wildly, desperately trying to shake off the invisible weight crushing you. At this exact moment, you felt like a drowning man, clawing desperately to breach the surface. But an invisible demonic hand was dragging you down to the Mariana Trench. Am I really going to die right here? You screamed internally. No, I refuse to die. Where is my dad? You cast panicked glances in every direction. Silas had vanished without a trace. Everything before your eyes shattered like a soap bubble, splintering into fragments. I cannot die. But it was all completely futile. You felt like you were free-falling into an abyssal ocean, your consciousness rapidly fading. And then, you violently ripped your eyes open. An explosive surge of adrenaline launched you straight up from the mattress, violently bucking the girl who had been lying squarely on top of your chest, launching her through the air. With a resounding thud, she crash-landed heavily on the floor, all 4 limbs pointing at the ceiling, letting out a pained wail. You sat upright on the bed, gasping for oxygen like a stranded fish. You had literally almost died of asphyxiation in your dream. How could you have generated such an absurdly realistic, horrifying nightmare? Rent Baroness, why are you sleeping on the floor? You stared down at the downed girl, filled with total confusion. Alara slowly peeled herself off the floor, attempting to fix her messy hair. The aggressive blush on her face hadn't entirely faded. She used her sleeve to wipe the corner of her mouth, saying with maximum awkwardness, "It's nothing. I just tripped and took a tumble." She was absolutely, never, under any circumstances, going to confess that she was aggressively force-kissing you while you were unconscious. Is that so? You narrowed your eyes suspiciously, tracking her constantly shifting, guilty gaze. Then what is this stuff? You plucked a few strands of golden blonde hair off your blanket. This is literally my bed. It is biologically normal for my hair to be on it. Then why are they plastered all over my face? You peeled several more strands of blonde hair right off your own cheek. I wanted to manually verify your forehead temperature to check if your fever had broken. So, I just temporarily docked my forehead against yours, right? Yep, that makes total sense. You bought her logic, but a primal instinct screamed that something was deeply wrong. Hey, is your cold feeling any better? The two of you fired off the exact same question at the exact same time. Ah, I am back to 100%. She visibly squirmed. Lowering her eyes, she stared a hole into the floorboards, one finger mindlessly twirling a strand of hair. You just nodded. I am feeling way better too. By the way, how long was I out? Glancing at the wall clock, you gasped, sucking in a sharp lungful of cold air. You had been completely comatose in that bed for nearly an entire, grueling 24-hour cycle. Ara grabbed a glass of hot water from the nightstand, flashing you a beaming, radiant smile. I have literally been nursing you for an entire day, you know. You looked her up and down. A fine layer of sweat coated her forehead, like she had just survived a brutal cardio workout. She really must have exhausted herself just trying to take care of me. You took the hot water, your chest suddenly aching with a heavy dose of guilt. Without missing a beat, she pivoted to pitching the idea of being roommates in a new apartment. Not overthinking it, you nodded. Yeah, that works out perfectly. Living with my best friend means we can watch each other's backs. Plus, we both got into the exact same university. Commuting to class together every day sounded like a rock-solid plan. Honestly, as long as you didn't have to share the exact same bedroom with Ara, it was a total win. Then it is officially decided. We roll out tomorrow. She beamed, thrilled that you didn't shoot the idea down. She was so hyped, she practically vaulted to the ceiling. But, what is the protocol for tonight? You asked. Oh, forgot to drop this tiny detail. This mansion literally only has this one, single bedroom. Therefore, you have zero choice but to sleep in here with me. You stared at her with aggressive skepticism, your brows knitting together in suspicion. Furthermore, your fever has not totally cleared yet. I still need to monitor your vitals tonight. You will just have to suffer through staying in this room for one more night. Fine. You sighed, scavenging a blanket and laying it out on the floor, fully prepared to rough it on the ground. Ara silently watched your little floor construction project. A wicked smirk crept onto the corners of her mouth. Little Colin, sleeping on the floor is absolutely terrible for your spine. This young lady graciously permits you to share the royal mattress. You rolled your eyes so hard they practically reached the stratosphere. If I let you torture me for another entire night, I will be permanently paralyzed by tomorrow morning. The rental apartment you mentioned is literally a mega mansion. Having arrived in Metro Avalon, you stared, completely dumbfounded, at the massive 3-story villa looming before you. Yep, she nodded enthusiastically, completely unfazed. It is super close to campus. A 10-minute walk, max. Detecting your immediate financial panic, she frantically deployed her cover story. Do not stress about the rent. This property belongs to a friend of my parents. It was sitting totally vacant anyway. When they heard we needed a place, they gave us an apocalyptic discount. Honestly, you moving in actually saved my life. We are splitting the cost 50-50. Hearing this pitch, the massive boulder of financial anxiety in your chest instantly evaporated, and you followed Ara straight into the villa. The very second Ara crossed the threshold, she launched herself like a heat-seeking missile onto the sofa, whining loudly. I am literally exhausted to death, she groaned, sprawling face down on the cushions, her legs kicking the air restlessly. Her slippers launched off her feet in completely random trajectories, one of them nearly taking out the massive flat-screen TV. You're exhausted? You deadpanned, looking down at your own hands, which were currently carrying 100% of her massive luggage haul. Your mouth twitched in profound exasperation. Rent Baroness. Cease your slacking. Get up right now. Go unpack your bags. No way. You just unpack everything for me, she whined. Wait, are you actually refusing to unpack your own bedroom? A demonic smirk suddenly materialized on your face, your hands extending out like menacing claws toward her critical weak points. Are you getting up or not? You ruthlessly deployed a tactical tickle strike directly to her armpits. Stop. Ha ha ha. Stop. I surrender. Ara shrieked with uncontrollable laughter, repeatedly begging for mercy. Okay, I will go organize my room right now. You took pity and hauled her heavy luggage to her bedroom door, then laid down your itinerary. You get your room sorted out first. I am heading out for a bit. Honestly, I probably won't be back tonight. It is already so late. Where are you even trying to go? She looked genuinely deeply confused. You let out a heavy, soul-weary sigh. I am going to go hunt for a part-time gig. If RNG is on my side, I can start making cash tonight. Hearing this, a highly complex, almost dark emotion flashed through her eyes. All right then. Just don't stay out too late. Watching your retreating silhouette, the corners of Ara's mouth slowly hooked into a cold, calculating smile. My darling. How could I possibly bear to let you work some menial little job? Whispering those words, she casually dialed a highly specific number on her phone. After terminating the call, she popped open a hidden compartment in her suitcase, extracted a micro camera, and marched straight toward the empty bedroom right next to hers. My darling. Considering how exceptionally well I treat you, rewarding me with a little compensation is perfectly reasonable, right? Heck yes. I still can't believe my little bro scored a mega mansion like this. That night, your older cousin Thalia chauffeured you back to the villa on her motorcycle. That's right, you spent the entire night miserably failing to find a job, but by sheer cosmic coincidence, you bumped into your long-lost cousin, Thalia, the daughter of your dad's older brother. According to your memory banks, right after graduating college, she moved to Metro Avalon, grinding it out entirely on her own. You only ever saw her during the Lunar New Year. When you were kids, she bullied you relentlessly. Even though you were physically stronger, the absolute bloodline suppression meant you took constant losses every time you tried to rebel. Thus, you crowned her with the title, the Grand Demoness. She was just about to wave and rev her engine to leave, but you checked the time and immediately stopped her. Sis, it's crazy late. It is totally unsafe out there. How about you just crash in my room for the night? You take the bed, and I'll deploy a floor mat. Thalia yawned massively and waved her hand dismissively. Works for me, but you sleep wherever you normally sleep. I can survive perfectly fine on the sofa. After saying that, she dragged her exhausted carcass into the house right behind you. The rent baroness is probably deep in sleep by now. You shut the front door with ninja-level stealth and tiptoed up the stairs. Suddenly, a slightly whiny, cloying voice drifted down from the second floor. Why did you come home so late? Ara, wearing a fuzzy bear onesie, poked her sleep-mussed head out over the railing. Wait! Sister Thalia! She instantly locked onto Thalia, her eyes practically shooting lasers, before immediately blooming into a ridiculously radiant smile. Ara, how on earth did you end up living with this punk? Thalia asked. We got into the same university, so we just… Ara blushed red as she stammered vaguely. Thalia's mouth curved into a profoundly knowing smirk. She had clocked this girl's ulterior motives years ago. Her energy levels instantly spiked to 100%. So, what's the official relationship status between you two right now? What do you mean, relationship statuses? You yawned violently and rolled your eyes. Sis, hurry up and go to sleep. Tomorrow, I'm dragging you with me to job hunt. And you, rent baroness, staying up this late? Watch me file a formal complaint with Auntie. Ara immediately latched onto your arm like a remora fish. I was waiting up for you. She cooed, physically dragging you toward her bedroom. Rent baroness, what are you doing? My HP is at 0. Release me immediately. No way. I'm terrified of the dark. I can't fall asleep alone. Ara activated her ultimate pitiful puppy persona, clinging to your arm and acting aggressively cute. Fake. Keep faking it. You shot her a look of pure disdain. Ara threw a rapid-fire wink at Thalia. Thalia instantly decoded the signal and immediately sprinted into your bedroom. Little bro, sis suddenly really wants to sleep on a mattress. Saying that, she slammed the door and threw the deadbolt with a loud click. Sis, you instantly realized you had been tactically outmaneuvered. Oh dear, Sister Thalia must be completely exhausted. We should absolutely let her get a good night's rest. A flash of pure vulpine cunning gleamed in Ara's eyes as she kicked her own bedroom door shut. I am completely defeated by the two of you. You accepted your grim fate and collapsed into the desk chair in her room. She stared at you, with eyes curved into happy little crescents. So, how did the job hunt go today? Recalling the absolute disaster of the evening, you couldn't help but sigh. Total wipeout. Tomorrow, I need to expand the search radius. You then proceeded to trauma dump your entire bizarre sequence of events. Hearing this, Ara's brow furrowed tightly, the smile entirely evaporating from her face. She listened to your endless barrage of complaints, her head lowered, calculating completely unknown variables in her mind. Half an hour later, you finally succumbed to the overwhelming wave of exhaustion and literally passed out while sitting upright in the chair. My darling. You finally fell asleep. I was practically dying of impatience. Ara raised her head, the corners of her mouth hooking into a smile loaded with terrifying implications. She then physically hauled you onto the bed. Be a good boy and sleep. I'll come keep you company in just a minute. But right now, I need to go permanently deal with those street trash that dared to bully you. She tucked you in perfectly, whipped out her phone, and executed a call. Why is there zero noise coming from those two? In the adjacent room, Thalia had her ear practically fused to the drywall, eavesdropping like a professional spy. So boring. Thalia sighed with heavy disappointment. In her personal headcanon, you and Ara were a god-tier childhood friends-to-lovers ship. As a veteran shipper, she felt morally obligated to aggressively intervene and speed up the plot. Unacceptable. I need to go physically verify what they are doing. Realizing there was prime gossip to be harvested, Thalia's blood pressure spiked, completely vaporizing her fatigue. She tiptoed with cat-like precision right up to Ara's door. A thin sliver of light was leaking out from under the doorframe. Wait, aren't you supposed to kill the lights for a secret midnight rendezvous? She was standing there, utterly confused, when suddenly, a voice colder than liquid nitrogen drifted from inside. Starting tomorrow, I never want to hear the name High Family in Metro Avalon ever again. Also, apprehend the High Family's young master and bring him straight to me. I have a very specific itinerary prepared for him. Wait, what? Is that Ara's voice? Since when did she upgrade to full-blown mafia boss mode? Thalia's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. This ruthless tone was fundamentally incompatible with the sweet Ara that she knew. It carried an inexplicable, terrifying aura of absolute authority. Her brain overclocked instantly. Wait a second. The Vance family. The four great families. A world-shattering revelation rapidly assembled itself in her mind. Oh, my sweet little brother. You have inadvertently harpooned an absolute leviathan. If I just ride your coattails, I am set for life. Just as Thalia was busy drafting her early retirement plans, an impossibly sultry voice echoed from the room once again. Colin, I just did you another massive favor. Therefore, isn't it completely justifiable that I collect a little payment? Hearing this spicy detail, Thalia's mouth curved upward uncontrollably. She wished she could physically transmute herself into a wad of gum stuck to the door. Inside the room, Ara leaned over, pressing her face intimately close to yours, and took a massive, deep breath. My darling, whenever you leave the house, you are gone for the entire day. To prevent a critical battery depletion on my end, I will just proactively extract a few replacement batteries to use. Very quickly, accompanied by the distinct sound of tearing fabric, a piece of clothing materialized in Ara's hand. Outside the door, Thalia heard the wild sound effects. Her brain aggressively rendered highly inappropriate 3D animations, her eyes flashing with absolute golden light. Holy crap, she is going absolutely feral. After a brief symphony of rustling noises, with zero traces of remorse whatsoever, Ara carefully stored her newly acquired war trophies and pulled out a fresh set of clothes to equip onto you. Because your HP was at absolute zero, combined with her surgical precision, you slept through the entire operation completely undisturbed. But suddenly, a deafening crash shattered the tranquility. Ara violently whipped her head around, only to see Thalia sitting on the floor, massaging her bruised tailbone. She had been leaning against the door with such intense dedication that she literally broke the entire lock mechanism. The two women locked eyes, and then simultaneously, aggressively avoided eye contact. Thalia laughed with maximum awkwardness. Ahaha. I was just sleepwalking. Pardon the intrusion. She spun around to bolt, but she just could not resist throwing one last glance over her shoulder. Hold up. Why is Kalen dead asleep? Thalia's brain went into quantum overdrive. So, the tearing sound from earlier. Wasn't Kalen doing the tearing? The unconscious Kalen is actually the victim here, which means Ara is actually a do. Do you know everything now? Ara kept her head lowered. Her voice was as microscopic as a mosquito. Probably. Thalia awkwardly stared at the ceiling. Ugh. Ara felt like her brain was actively emitting smoke. She just got caught performing this specific, unhinged ritual by his own cousin. If she reports this back to him, relax, I swear on my actual life, I will absolutely never tell him. Thalia threw her hand up in a solemn oath. Unacceptable. 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 Kaylin absolutely cannot know. Ara began muttering to herself like a cursed, haunted doll. The ambient temperature in the room plummeted, the heating system apparently failing completely. Cold sweat beaded nervously on Thalia's forehead. She deployed her most serious, earnest tone. Ara, listen, this kind of stuff is actually super normal. You two are just so deeply in love. Sis has always been your biggest cheerleader. Sis will absolutely never sell you out. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Ara was now officially functioning as a creepy, broken tape recorder. Hey, even if you have some extremely niche fetishes, I will back you guys up, 100%. Thalia desperately attempted some amateur psychological counseling. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Seeing that her diplomacy was being completely ignored, Thalia frowned and waved a hand in front of Ara's face. My darling, can absolutely never find out. Ara suddenly snapped her head up, staring at Thalia with completely hollow, soulless eyes, her mouth contorted into a deeply uncanny arc. She casually scooped up a sharp pair of scissors from the floor and slowly stood up. Tap. She stepped onto the hardwood floor barefoot, advancing step by step, while constantly mumbling your name in a slurred, obsessive chant. It is over. Ara's sanity meter has officially hit 0. She has completely transformed from the sweet girl she usually is into a total yandere. Thalia violently shivered, backing up step for step. What do I do? What do I do? I have got to run. I need to escape, right now. Thalia's brain was absolutely screaming in panic. She whipped around and sprinted for the exit, but the tap, tap, tap of footsteps followed her at a terrifyingly leisurely pace. Thalia practically flew down the stairs, making a desperate beeline straight for the front door. Right now, pure survival was her only priority. If I don't get out, I'm getting permanently logged out of life today, she panicked, practically crashing into the heavy front door. She wrenched the handle with maximum violence, but the door refused to yield even a single millimeter. Come on, you stupid door. Open already. Heart pounding in her throat, Thalia threw a completely desperate glance over her shoulder. Ara had already descended the stairs, her peach-pink pupils glowing ominously in the pitch black as she paced slowly and methodically toward her. Right! The windows! Thalia dove and crashed onto the floor, frantically crawling and rolling her way to the floor-to-ceiling windows, yanking the handle until the metal literally shrieked. But the window lock was rusted completely solid. Ara was rapidly closing the distance. Only 3 paces remained between them. Thalia collapsed onto the cold floor, her eyes overflowing with pure, unfiltered terror, scooting backward inch by terrified inch until her spine slammed hard against the wall, leaving her with absolutely 0 escape routes. The heavy scissors in Ara's hand carved a glint of cold steel through the dark air, grasped tightly in a lethal reverse grip. But the primal will to survive forced Thalia to override her paralyzing fear. She fiercely locked her eyes onto the scissors in Ara's hand. At the exact microsecond the deadly blade descended, she launched both her hands up and clamped desperately onto Ara's wrists. The usually frail-looking girl had seemingly morphed into a walking biological weapon, outputting completely superhuman kinetic force. Thalia gritted her teeth, resisting through sheer brute strength, but it was mathematically obvious she couldn't hold out for much longer. Ara continued applying crushing pressure while continuously mumbling something crazy under her breath. Although the audio was highly garbled, the name Kaylin was running on a permanent loop in her twisted vocal cords. Wait, that's it, Kaylin. Thalia experienced a sudden flash of divine enlightenment. I was so focused on surviving, I completely ignored the central plot device. The entire reason Ara went completely feral was to hide her unhinged nature from Kaylin. Right. Thalia cautiously deployed her desperate verbal counterattack. I possess Kaylin's childhood photo album. But Ara acted completely deaf. Her soulless dead eyes remained hard-locked onto Thalia. No, wait. That's the totally wrong strategy. They are childhood friends. Pictures of Kid Kaylin have absolutely 0 market value to her. What exactly is her primary aggro trigger? Hold on. She's literally a yandere. A genius light bulb went completely supernova in Thalia's brain. She screamed at the top of her lungs, I have Kaylin's sacred boxer shorts. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. To survive, she would fabricate absolutely any lie necessary. Miraculously, Ara's assault animation was instantly cancelled. A bizarre, highly irregular light glitched across the crazy girl's eyes. Kaylin's? Undies? Thalia's eyes lit up like a Vegas slot machine hitting the ultimate jackpot, grabbing onto this wild lifeline with a death grip. Yep, all his laundry is stashed at my place. Thalia started speedrunning a mental menu of everything she could possibly think of to say, and he literally told me he loves you the most. This final, desperate sentence acted like a mythical sealing spell, completely stabilizing the chaotic fluctuations in Ara's broken psyche. I also love Kaylin the most. The scissors hit the floor with a loud clang. Ara, acting as if her battery had been violently ripped out, collapsed just like a felled tree and instantly fell fast asleep. Thalia practically melted against the wall, terrified tears doing endless laps in her exhausted eye sockets. Who could have possibly predicted that the sweet little girl calling her Big Sis was secretly a max-level combat operative in the shadows? Oh, little bro, you have truly been blessed by the crazy gods. Thalia spent a very, very long time letting her racing heart rate return to a normal rhythm before finally standing back up. She firemen carried Ara all the way back to her bed and threw one last cautious look at the two of them sleeping soundly. Thalia smiled bitterly and shook her head. Finally, she fumbled around, found the main door switch, and without daring to look back even once, hopped on her motorcycle and blasted off into the dark night. The very next day, the bright morning sun pierced right through the curtains, striking you directly in the face. You groggily opened your eyes, actually enjoying the incredibly rare luxury of waking up naturally. Unsurprisingly, Ara was currently operating as a clingy biological octopus, wrapping you up entirely and rendering you completely immobile. Oh, crap! I still need to hunt for jobs today. You panicked, suddenly remembering your primary, real-world objective. You deployed absolute maximum physical exertion to carefully extract yourself from her sweet but demonic clutches, tiptoeing over to the adjacent bedroom door. Hey sis, are you awake in there? You called out cautiously. There was absolutely zero response. Did she seriously just abandon me and leave early? You pulled out your phone, intending to call her, only to see a strange text message time-stamped at 1 in the morning, instantly plunging you into deep philosophical contemplation. The text read, "Sis had urgent business. I had to deploy early. Catch you later. Once the semester starts, remember to allocate some time to visit me. Ara is a spectacularly amazing girl. Make absolutely sure you treat her right during college. Do absolutely nothing to ever provoke her crazy wrath. Also, survive at all costs." Looking blankly at this highly cryptic text, you didn't overthink it, fired off a quick status update to Ara, and deployed straight out of the house. Wait, what's with the massive mob swarming over there? Lyra, I love you. An absolute army of die-hard fans was chanting their goddess's name with terrifying military precision, generously blasting their desperate declarations of love straight into the stratosphere. As a sleek convoy of jet black Maybachs slowly rolled onto the scene, someone in the crowd detonated a scream. She's here! She's here! It's Lyra Celestia's convoy. In a fraction of a microsecond, the entire fanbase went completely thermonuclear. The chanting was deafening, loud enough to shatter glass. Hearing that name, your eyes instantly lit up like blazing beacons. You were literally a hardcore, card-carrying member of her ultimate fan club. You completely didn't expect this lucky break. While grinding away looking for a dead-end job, you somehow triggered a random world event and caught her scouting a local venue. You immediately hit sprint and merged seamlessly into the mob, praying to the heavens to catch a live-action glimpse of Lyra Celestia. The convoy slowly docked right in front of the central theater. The absolute millisecond the security detail yanked that car door open, a blinding blizzard of white lily petals erupted straight from the sunroof. Accompanied by that majestic petal storm, Lyra Celestia, draped in an impossibly elegant white dress, stepped gracefully out of the vehicle. She flashed a blindingly radiant smile and bowed deeply to the roaring crowd. Watching Lyra standing there, completely engulfed in flowers, your brain just completely blue-screened. She looked totally unreal in photos, but her live-action render was somehow infinitely more devastating. It wasn't until Lyra, heavily surrounded by her massive security phalanx, vanished into the theater that you violently snapped back to harsh reality. Total catastrophe. How on earth did I forget to snap a screenshot? Right after that, An absolutely unhinged tactical plan spawned in your brain. You ran a full perimeter sweep of the theater and finally halted near a very specific section of the outer wall. Perfect, you muttered. Zero security mobs stationed here. You backed up a few paces, prepping yourself for a flawless parkour breach. Lyra Celestia, I am infiltrating right now, but at that exact millisecond. Excuse me? A female voice suddenly detonated directly behind you. Because you were operating with a massively guilty conscience, you got jump-scared straight out of your actual skin. Your left foot aggressively engaged in a lethal duel with your right foot, and you spectacularly ate the pavement. Oh my gosh. Are you okay? She frantically rushed over and hauled you right back to your feet. You finally got a crystal clear visual of this random NPC. It was a girl fully equipped with tactical sunglasses and a massive scarf covering 80% of her facial features. You completely failed to identify who she was. You casually dusted off your armor and asked with faint, forced nonchalance, can I help you? No, nothing major, she stammered. I just wanted to run a quick query. Are you a fan of Lyra Celestia? Receiving your firm, affirmative nod. Her voice spiked with an audible, undeniable trace of euphoria. Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Could you possibly assist me with a quick quest? She turned sideways and pointed a timid finger straight at the perimeter wall. Could you? Boost me over the wall. Your brain instantly processed her crazy request, and you deployed a swift, absolutely righteous rejection. Absolutely not. You ran a highly critical full visual scan of her. Let me guess. You're also a crazed fan of Lyra Celestia? She eagerly nodded her head. I totally knew it. Hearing this, you hardened your expression into an unbreakable, stern mask. Look, I totally comprehend your emotional state right now. You want to infiltrate the zone and score some illicit paparazzi shots, right? However, let me tell you, this behavior is heavily unethical. Point A, point B, and finally point C. Therefore, I strongly advise you to abort this mission immediately. She lowered her head, docking her hands obediently and awkwardly in front of her. Then, she whispered back in an incredibly pitiful, deeply wronged tone. I can definitely compensate you with cash. Furthermore, I swear on my life I absolutely will not take any illicit photos. Hearing this, your righteous fury instantly upgraded. Do I look like the kind of cheap NPC that can be bought? Compared to just farming gold, I'd much rather see you return to the path of light. The great philosopher Lu Xun once stated, a premium moral compass vastly outweighs infinite gold drops. Is $100 enough? She squeaked. You scoffed. Morality is gold, brightly outshining 10,000 taels of pure silver. 1,000 acts of virtue utterly transcend material wealth, leaving a lasting legacy for generations. She blinked. Then, how about 100,000? Currency is merely a shallow medium of material exchange, fleeting and easily lost. But premium moral character is. Wait, hold up. Exactly how much did you just say? She visibly shrank back from your terrifying, sudden intensity. Is that not enough? I can add way more to the bounty. You shot her a deeply critical, calculating look and delivered an incredibly profound, almost fatherly warning. You better remember this. This is a strictly one-time exploit. While saying this, you had already marched right up to the wall and expertly assumed the boosting stance. Come on then, step on up. The girl's face instantly went nuclear red. She hesitated intensely, practically dying on the spot from pure embarrassment. Hey, dismiss the awkwardness and speed it up. If security actually spots us, the cringe levels are going to be completely lethal. You aggressively and impatiently urged her to hurry up. She hesitantly shuffled over to your exact coordinates. Grabbing your shoulders and trembling like a fragile leaf, she nervously climbed onto your back, tightly wrapping her arms around your neck. Hold on, super tight. You issued a stern warning as you slowly initiated the standing animation. But as you moved, the mysterious girl on your back began emitting a frantic series of high-pitched siren noises, drawing the deeply judgmental and utterly disgusted glares of every random pedestrian walking by. You squeezed your eyes shut in sheer, unadulterated despair. For the sake of that 100,000 bounty, I am literally throwing my public reputation in the trash. Finally, after an absolutely ridiculous struggle, the two of you managed to successfully breach the perimeter wall. Just thinking about that sweet 100,000 cash drop, you couldn't stop the corners of your mouth from creeping up into a grin. I'll add you on WeChat and wire the bounty straight to your account." Saying that, the girl whipped out her smartphone, but the very next second, she just stared at the verification prompt on her screen, completely frozen in deep thought. You took one look, and your brain practically suffered a system crash. The avatar and username were 100% yours, but the giant red error message flashing below them forced you into a heavy, profound silence. Friend request failed. The other party has added you to their blacklist. Wait, do I actually know her? How weird is that? Why is there zero data of her in my memory banks? You did a full 360-degree orbit around her. Did we ever actually cross paths? But your internal logic engine immediately spat out the obvious answer. I knew it. This NPC is just a scamming telemarketer. Seriously, look at yourself. Your family is obviously loaded. Why on earth are you out here grinding such a garbage, low-tier job like telemarketing? You immediately launched into a super self-righteous, moral re-education lecture. But she stayed completely silent, just staring blankly right at your face. Suddenly, 2 heavy streams of tears cascaded right out from under her sunglasses. Seeing that, you actually started to panic. "Ah, my bad. I'll unblock you from the blacklist right this exact second." Saying that, you practically scrambled to send the friend request yourself. Hey, about what I just said, don't let it damage your HP, okay? Truth is, I've grinded the telemarketing quest line before, too. It really is a brutal grind. Who knew trying to comfort her would just make her sob even harder? Intermittent, broken sobs echoed out from behind her scarf. Watching her completely break down, you closed your eyes in absolute, crushing despair. Gritting your teeth, you muttered in a totally defeated voice, "Look, this time, the fault is entirely mine. I'll just forfeit the bounty." After dropping that line, you spun right around, ready to deploy your escape logic only to feel the hem of your shirt get yanked back in an absolute death grip. The raw, heartbreaking audio of her sobbing hit your ears. "Are you really still refusing to forgive me?" You snapped your head back and instantly locked eyes with her tear-drenched face. I finally tracked you down. Do you have any idea just how long I've been running this search query for you? Ever since elementary school, I've wanted nothing more than to see you with my own eyes." After screaming that, she actually threw her arms wide open, initiating a full-blown hug animation. You violently dashed backward, desperately creating some distance. Man, this telemarketer is way too hardcore. Locking onto my coordinates since elementary school and maintaining aggro all the way until now? Just running the simulation in my head makes my scalp go totally numb. You patted your completely empty pockets and forced out an incredibly awkward smile. "Look, I'm just out here grinding for a job today. I literally have 0 gold right now. If you join my party, you're only going to debuff yourself." The girl's cheeks flushed a deep red as she wept softly. "It doesn't matter. I will stay in your party for my entire life." You treated her emotional confession like it was purely randomly generated NPC gibberish. You just waved your hand, prepping to execute a swift tactical retreat. "Well, if there are no further quests, I'm logging off. Have fun exploring. GLHF." But who could have predicted she would clamp onto your arm with hydraulic force, completely refusing to detach? Unacceptable. If you're going to log off, you are legally required to take me with you. Your heart instantly suffered a massive critical strike. She's actually permanently aggroed onto me, taking full advantage of her momentary lag. You violently wrenched your arm free, executed a flawless dash jump over the perimeter wall, and sprinted away into the distance without a single glance backward. The girl was left completely stranded at the spawn point. She lagged out for a few seconds, the deep flush on her face burning exponentially hotter. Even as the tears flowed down her cheeks like she had an infinite mana pool, she gritted her teeth. Unacceptable. Lyra finally managed to locate him. I absolutely cannot allow him to despawn again. Come on, Lyra, you have the stats for this. Capture him. Then, as if she were whispering a dark magic incantation, the corners of her mouth slowly hooked up into a profoundly eerie, completely unnatural smile. I will absolutely never allow you to despawn from my server ever again. Meanwhile, sprinting for your life, you kept your head totally down, aggressively deleting and blacklisting the psycho friend you had just added. After double-checking that the ban was totally permanent, you smugly shoved your phone right back into your inventory. But the very next microsecond, with a sickeningly resounding clang, your head made critical, bone-rattling contact with a concrete utility pole. It instantly triggered the Seeing Stars debuff. Clutching your actively bleeding forehead, you were completely forced to sit down on the stone steps by the road just to regenerate some HP. Panting, you thought to yourself, there's a 0% chance she managed to track my pathing, right? Boom. You took damage. What happened to your HP bar? An impossibly gentle voice drifted over with the chilling wind, carrying a faint, almost unnoticeable scent of lilies. Oh, it's nothing. I just failed a quick time event while walking. Collided with a static object. You replied, your brain heavily lagging. Is that so? Then allow Lyra to apply a healing bandage for you, she whispered, accompanied by the chilling sound of ripping fabric. A pair of unbelievably soft hands navigated from behind you, reaching around to your front, wrapping a bandage around your head. Layer by methodical layer. You closed your eyes, actually enjoying the premium healing buff. Thanks a million, you literally share the exact same username as my favorite idol, so does that imply you hold a really high affinity for Lyra Celestia? Her audio output suddenly experienced minor tremors. Then, I have a logic puzzle I just don't quite understand. She leaned down, docking right next to your audio receptors. Then why? Did you initiate an escape sequence? Your pupils suffered a violent, instantaneous contraction. You snapped your head sideways to visually acquire the NPC. The girl had a faint, serene smile permanently locked onto her mouth, staring at your face with absolute, unhinged obsession. Those tactical sunglasses obscured her line of sight, but somehow made this inherently cute, delicate face render as terrifyingly warped and eerie. Your heart rate violently skipped a beat, not just because she was giving off relentless stalker vibes, but because your primal instincts registered a lethal aura of frost scaling your spine. You completely lost your balance and tumbled off the stone steps. She remained perfectly anchored to her coordinates, still gripping a massive, blunt tree branch in her hand. That eerie, unnatural smile was still plastered on her face, as if she were thoroughly enjoying your miserable, debuffed state. You aggressively gulped down your saliva, forcefully projecting an aura of calm, cool confidence. Hey miss, big sister, I admit defeat. Are you selling insurance? No problem. I'll buy the premium package. I'll buy an extra policy for my dad, too. If you're selling online tutoring courses, even better. My guildmates are totally bored this winter break. This will be the perfect grinding content for them. Just, as long as you agree to drop aggro and let me live, I will buy it. I swear I'll buy it. Okay, is that your final offer? The girl straightened her posture, a single finger lightly tapping her lower lip. Her other hand propped up her cheek, her gaze actually radiating a few pixels of playful charm. Then, how about I just sell myself to you? Would that be acceptable? She swayed her body with engineered vulnerability. Her voice was so soft and weak, it sounded like she was aggressively acting cute. You lagged out completely. Your brain's RAM instantly overloaded. Hold on, what exactly are you selling? Myself, obviously. Honestly, why force me to repeat the dialogue prompt twice? Her volume steadily decreased, her cheeks flushing a vibrant, burning red. You've left me in the waiting lobby for so incredibly long. Saying this, she actually sounded like she was choking back real tears. Just take Lyra with you. No matter what you do to Lyra, or what you demand of her, Lyra will click accept on every single prompt. She stumbled unsteadily toward your coordinates and aggressively buried her face into your chest armor. And my only required payment is just half the amount of love I have for you. That is sufficient. Noticing you had zero reaction to the prompt, her eyes lost all their illumination, her volume dropping to near-silent levels. Is Lyra's greed stat too high? Then, 1/3 is perfectly acceptable. 1/5, just a microscopic fraction. Just a tiny pixel of love is enough. Wait a second. Let me run a diagnostic. Your brain was a completely chaotic mess of corrupted files. Weren't we just running a telemarketer questline? Why has she suddenly transitioned into demanding love? I've already grinded to this extreme level that day. After you permanently banned me, I went absolutely feral trying to run a trace on you. I burned through every resource I had, yet I couldn't even extract your basic character name. She violently snapped her head up, a terrifying purple luminescence flashing from behind her sunglasses, smiling while simultaneously sobbing. If it weren't for you, that specific user who listened to my audio logs every single day and boosted my morale, I absolutely would not have achieved my current server ranking. I am completely willing to transfer ownership of myself to you. And what about you? Are you refusing to donate even a single pixel of love to me? She forcefully dug both her hands into the center of her chest, her fingernails sinking deep into the flesh, as if she wanted to physically rip her own heart out. Suddenly, her hand formed into a claw and lunged violently toward your heart. You threw your whole body forward. Instead of executing a tactical retreat, you aggressively closed the distance, tackling her mid-lunge. The sheer kinetic momentum sent both of you crashing violently onto the freezing cold concrete. Ipu. Her claw-like hand missed your heart by mere millimeters. Instead, she shredded the front of your jacket, violently ripping away the very healing bandage she had just tenderly applied to your forehead. The brutal impact of the fall knocked her tactical sunglasses and massive scarf completely off, exposing her under the dim, flickering glow of the streetlights. Her true visual render was finally exposed to the world. Flawless porcelain skin, mesmerizing eyes. It was a face currently plastered across every single digital billboard in Metro Avalon. It was undeniably Lyra Celestia, the nation's top pop idol. But right now, there was absolutely zero idol aura about her. She didn't look the least bit fazed by slamming into the concrete. Instead, she used the momentum to seamlessly flip your positions. Now she was straddling your waist, pinning both of your wrists to the ground with a terrifying, hydraulic-like superhuman grip. You were rapidly discovering a horrifying truth. This monstrous strength was apparently a passive buff shared by every single unhinged girl in this server. You caught me, Lyra whispered. Her eerie, unnatural smile returned, but this time, her eyes were swirling with a dizzying, intoxicating pink glow. You finally initiated a physical interaction. You threw yourself right into Lyra's arms. I was just trying to avoid getting my heart literally ripped out of my rib cage, you thought in a panic. You yelled out, your HP bar practically flashing red in your UI. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Lyra giggled, her voice dripping with an agonizingly sweet venom. I only wanted to carve my name into your heart, metaphorically. But now that I have you pinned, perhaps a physical imprint is better. She leaned down, her hypnotic lily scent completely paralyzing your motor functions. Her lips were mere inches from yours. You squeezed your eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable game-over cinematic. Screech! A deafening roar of tires completely shattered the tense atmosphere. The blinding high beams of a pitch-black luxury sedan, looking suspiciously identical to the taxi from last night, swept across the sidewalk. It drifted aggressively before slamming to a violent halt just inches from the curb. The car door was kicked open with enough force to dent the hinges. Alara stepped out into the biting wind. She wasn't wearing her cute, fuzzy bear onesie anymore. Instead, she was draped in an elegant, chillingly sharp trench coat. Her blonde hair whipped wildly in the wind, and her peach-pink eyes were currently glowing with an apocalyptic, blood-red fury. In her right hand, she casually dragged a solid aluminum baseball bat across the pavement, kicking up a terrifying shower of sparks. I turned my back for one. Single. Quest cycle. Alara's voice dropped to absolute zero, radiating an aura of pure, unfiltered murder, and some random street mob tries to steal my exclusive soul-bound loot. Lyra's movements completely froze. She slowly turned her head to look at her. The sweet, pitiful idol persona evaporated in a microsecond, instantly replaced by a mask of chilling, aristocratic contempt. Exclusive? Lyra scoffed, her perfectly manicured nails once again sharpening into lethal claws. I have been waiting in his queue since elementary school. I have the audio logs. I have the history. You are nothing but a malicious bug in the system trying to hijack my server. Try me, idol, Alara purred, raising the aluminum bat. Let's see if your little fan club can reconstruct your face after I completely shatter your hitbox. You lay there, pinned on the freezing concrete, completely paralyzed. You could only stare up at these two apex predators as they prepared to initiate a boss-level clash over your physical form. Suddenly, your brain's CPU finally connected the dots. How did Alara find your exact coordinates so fast? The micro-GPS tracker, the intro dialogue in your memory bank, suddenly flashed like a massive red warning beacon. She had covertly, surgically attached a tracker to your body. The torn clothes, the whole routine of measuring your temperature. It was all a sick setup. Just as Alara took a step forward and Lyra shifted her weight to pounce, your phone vibrated violently inside your shredded pocket. Using their momentary distraction, you desperately wrenched one hand free and pulled it out. Two glowing notifications illuminated the cracked screen. The first was a chilling text message from an unknown number. Brother, the men in black failed, but I finally isolated your sent profile. Do not move. Sarah is coming to collect you. We have so many games to play. The second notification was an emergency weather broadcast from the Metro Avalon localized network. Warning. Unprecedented freak blizzard forming over the central district. Temperatures dropping rapidly. Citizens are advised to seek immediate shelter. A single snowflake drifted down from the night sky, landing gently on your phone screen. The Snow Tribe Maiden. The air around you was rapidly freezing. Alara was gripping her bat, her terrifying yandere aura literally manifesting as physical heat. Lyra was humming a twisted, dark pop melody, her crazed eyes completely locked onto your neck. Sarah was rapidly closing in with a private army, and an unnatural freak blizzard was actively descending upon the city. Just for you. Your dad didn't flee because of some silly debt. He fled because he knew the horrifying truth. This entire city was a designated containment zone for catastrophic level yanderes. And now, all of that lethal aggro had finally shifted entirely onto the next generation. You stared up at the crushing, apocalyptic sky, dropped your phone onto the icy concrete, and let out the heaviest, most defeated sigh of your life. System prompt, you muttered into the freezing wind, fully accepting your grim, unavoidable reality. Seriously, is it too late to just delete my account? Spoiler alert. It was. The brutal death game of Metro Avalon had not just begun. You were already hopelessly trapped in the final, perpetual nightmare difficulty mode, facing totally impossible odds. And there was, absolutely, positively, no log out button anywhere in sight.